Welcome to the Meditation Nest, bedtime stories for adults. I'm Beth Buttram, your host and narrator. Here, stories become gentle meditations, designed to help your thoughts unwind as you slow the tempo of your life and embrace the night ahead. I invite you to slow your breath, soften your thoughts, and find peace as you drift into rest. This is your time to rest, reflect, and dream. Greetings. This week's tale is titled The Mapmaker's Dream. It's a story about a weary mapmaker who has spent a lifetime charting paths for others, only to discover that not every journey needs to be measured, labeled, or made certain. Some paths aren't meant to be found. They're meant to be felt. This story is for anyone standing at the edge of a new season, unsure of what comes next, but quietly curious enough to keep going anyway. So wherever you are right now, allow your body to soften. Let your shoulders drop. Let your breath slow. And let yourself be gently guided into tonight's story. Are you ready? Here we go. The mapmaker's hands were always stained, not in an untidy way, not in the frantic way of someone who spilled ink and forgot to wipe it up. No. His stains were the kind that came from devotion, from repetition, from a life spent leaning over paper while the world moved outside the window. The ink had seeped into the fine lines of his palms, settled beneath his fingernails, darkened the pads of his fingers until even when he washed them in warm water and soap, there was still the faint suggestion of blue-black in the creases. If you asked him what that meant, he would have told you it meant he was working. If you asked him what he was working on, he would have smiled and said, as if it were the simplest thing in the world, paths. Because that was what he made. Not roads, not bridges, not ships or boats, but the promise that someone could travel without fear of getting lost. He was known in his town as Victor, the finest mapmaker in 3 valleys. Travelers sought him out with their questions and their worries. Which mountain pass is safest? Which river runs too deep in spring? Where does the forest thin into meadow? How far is the village of red rooftops from the coast? Victor answered them all. He drew lines with steady patience, labeling and shading, adding careful marks for elevation, for water, for danger. His maps were so accurate that people began to trust them more than they trusted the sky. Some even trusted his maps more than they trusted themselves. That was the strange power of certainty. Once it was written down, it felt real enough to hold. And Victor had spent his whole life holding certainty for other people. He had been doing it for so long that he didn't notice when his own inner world began to feel like an unmarked page. It began quietly, a small tremor in his wrist when he held his pen, a heaviness in his eyes after only an hour of work, a fatigue that didn't quite cure. At first he told himself it was his age, as everyone did. But the truth was softer and more complicated. It wasn't that he couldn't work. It was that he was beginning to wonder why he worked. His maps were flawless, but his days were all the same. The seasons changed beyond his windows, the summer sun, the autumn rain, the winter hush, the bright thaw of spring. Yet inside his shop, time remained ink-colored and still. One evening, after the last customer had left and the town had gone quiet, Victor rolled up a finished map and set it aside. Then he simply sat there in the lamplight. The room smelled of parchment and beeswax. The floor creaked faintly as the building settled. Outside, somewhere beyond the cobblestone streets, the wind brushed past the shutters. He listened to it, the way you might listen to someone speaking through a wall. And then he did something he had never done before. He left his map unfinished. Not because he couldn't complete it, but because his hand refused to move. He stared at the blank corner of the parchment, an uncharted section of coastline, waiting for his mind to supply the correct angles, the correct curve of land. But nothing came. The blankness looked back at him like an invitation. Victor exhaled. Then, slowly, he turned off the lamp. That night he dreamed. At first, it was an ordinary dream, familiar even. He was in his shop, at his desk, with ink and paper. His pen was in his hand. But when he looked down at the parchment, he froze. It was not a map. It was a wide, empty sheet of cream-colored paper with no lines at all. No compass rose, no border, no title, just an expanse of possibility. He lifted the pen, ready to begin, but the ink in his well wasn't ink. It was something shimmering, moonlight perhaps, or water, or the pale glint of a pearl held up to the sun. When he dipped his pen into it, the liquid clung to the nib like a silver thread. He hesitated. A voice, not loud, not startling, rose behind him. "Are you going to draw the way again?" Victor turned. In the doorway stood a figure he couldn't quite place. A traveler, perhaps, cloaked in soft gray fabric. His face was gentle but indistinct, like a portrait still drying. "I always draw the way," Victor said, confused. The traveler tilted his head. "But do you ever walk it?" Victor's body tensed. He attempted to reply, but the words slipped away. The traveler stepped closer, and Victor noticed something strange. The traveler carried no bag, no lantern, no map. Only a small folded piece of paper held in one hand. Victor reached toward it instinctively. "What is that?" he asked. The traveler opened his palm. It wasn't a map. It was a blank square of paper, perfectly clean. Victor frowned. "There's nothing on it." The traveler smiled. "Exactly." He pressed it into Victor's hand. The moment his fingers touched the paper, he felt warmth spread up his arm, like sunlight. The room shifted. The desks, the shelves, the familiar smell of parchment. Everything faded as if it were being gently erased. And suddenly, Victor was standing outside. He was on a path he did not recognize. The air was cool and clear, scented with pine and stone. The sky above him was neither day nor night, but something in between. A deep blue brushed with silver, like dawn deciding whether to arrive. A valley stretched out ahead, quiet and wide, and at his feet, the path, if it could be called that, was not a road. There were no markers, no signs, no worn trail, just grass bent slightly in one direction, as if someone had passed through and left behind a whisper of movement. Victor looked down at the blank paper in his hand. Still empty. He turned it over. Empty. He held it up to the sky. Empty. He laughed once, softly, out of sheer disbelief. And then the wind moved. It brushed against his cheek like a hand. It stirred the grass in front of him, making it lean, almost pointing. Victor swallowed. He took a step forward. He walked for what felt like hours, though time in dreams never obeyed clocks. The valley unfolded slowly, like a story told in a calm voice. He passed clusters of wildflowers that looked like tiny lanterns. He crossed a shallow stream where stones glowed faintly beneath the surface. He climbed a rise and saw in the distance mountains layered like sleeping giants. At every turn, the path seemed to appear only when he approached it. He would reach a place where the grass stopped and the land became rock, and he would pause, uncertain. And then, as if responding to his stillness, he would notice a subtle indentation in the stone, a series of footprints, a faint shimmer, a way forward. It was maddening, and yet it was also strangely comforting, because for the first time in his life, Victor wasn't being asked to know everything in advance. He was only being asked to notice what was true in the moment. He began to understand something. The land did not demand his certainty. It only asked for his attention. Eventually, he reached a place where the valley opened into a wide plateau. In the center stood a solitary tree. It was unlike any tree he had ever seen. Its trunk pale and smooth, almost luminous, and its branches stretched outward like open arms. Beneath it sat a woman. She wore a cloak the color of sand, and her hair was braided down her back. In front of her, spread across the ground, were dozens of small objects: stones, feathers, leaves, bits of twine. Victor approached cautiously. The woman looked up as if she'd been expecting him. "You're late," she said. Victor blinked. "I'm not sure where I am." The woman smiled. "You're exactly where you are." That sentence should have been irritating. It should have felt like a riddle meant to show off cleverness. But instead, it landed in Victor's chest like a gentle weight. He looked down at the objects before her. "What are those?" he asked. The woman picked up a small stone, smooth, flat, veined with white, and turned it in her fingers. "Directions," she said. Victor frowned. "Those aren't directions." "They are if you know how to listen." She placed the stone back down and gestured for him to sit. Victor lowered himself to the grass, feeling oddly like a child. The woman watched him with patient amusement. "You make maps," she said. "Yes," Victor answered, guarded. "And you're very good at it." Victor wasn't sure if it was praise or observation. He nodded. The woman leaned forward and picked up a feather, dark gray and soft. This feather came from a bird that flies just before storms. she said. When the wind shifts, the bird knows. It doesn't need a forecast. She set the feather down and picked up a leaf, green but with a line of gold running through it. This leaf fell from a tree that grows only near underground springs. If you're thirsty, it can lead you to water. She placed it down and picked up a thin piece of twine. This twine once tied a bell to a goat's neck. When you hear the bell, you know you're near home. Victor listened, captivated despite himself. These aren't maps, he said quietly. The woman's eyes softened. No, she agreed. They're not. They're reminders. Reminders of what? She looked out across the valley, where the wind moved in long waves through the grass. That you already know how to find your way, she said. Victor's throat tightened. I don't, he said. I make the way for others. Your chart paths, she interrupted gently. Because you believe being lost is dangerous. Victor stared at her. The woman continued, her voice calm as water. But being lost is not the same as being unsafe. Sometimes it's simply the beginning of discovery. Victor swallowed. He looked down at the blank paper still in his hand. What am I supposed to do with this? He asked. The woman reached over and tapped the paper once with her fingertip. You're not supposed to draw on it, she said. Victor blinked. Then why give it to me? So you stop trying to fill every empty space, she answered. And then, in a voice so gentle it almost felt like it came from inside his own mind, she added, some journeys are meant to be felt, not found. The wind rose again, stronger this time. The woman gathered her objects with ease, tucking them into a small pouch at her side. You'll wake soon, she said. Victor's chest tightened with sudden urgency. Wait, he said. Who are you? The woman smiled. A keeper, she replied. A keeper of what? She stood, her cloak stirring around her ankles. Of the places people forget exist, she said. Victor stood too, though his legs felt unsteady. I don't want to forget this, he said. The woman looked at him with surprising tenderness. Then don't, she replied, but remember it properly. How? She reached out and placed her hand over his heart just for a moment. It was warm, and in that warmth, Victor felt something unfold. Not a thought, not a plan, but a knowing. Not every blank space needs ink. Not every path needs proof. The woman stepped back. When you wake, she said, don't run back to certainty like it's the only shelter you have. Victor opened his mouth to answer, but the valley began to fade. The grass dissolved into mist. The sky dimmed. The woman's face softened into light. Victor clutched the blank paper in his hand as everything fell away. He woke with his heart pounding. Morning light spilled across his shop, pale gold and quiet. The air smelled of ink and beeswax as always. For a moment he lay still, listening. There was no wind, only the soft hush of the town waking up. Distant footsteps, a door opening, a bird calling. Victor sat up slowly. His hands were still stained with ink. He looked around his shop. Everything was exactly the same, and yet he wasn't. He swung his legs out of bed and crossed to his desk. The unfinished map from the night before still lay there. The blank corner of coastline waited. Victor stared at it for a long time. Then, instead of reaching for his pen, he did something else. He opened a drawer and pulled out a sheet of fresh parchment. He placed it on the desk, and on the top, instead of writing a title like Route to the Coast or Northern Passes, he wrote, Places I Have Not Yet Met. He paused, surprised by his own words. Then he smiled, because it felt true, not certain, not proven, but true. He drew no borders. He drew no compass. Instead, he wrote small things. A hill that smells like rosemary. A bridge where the water sings. A road that feels like laughter. A place where I can breathe again. He didn't know if any of them existed, but the act of writing them made his chest feel lighter, like opening a window in a room he hadn't realized was closed. That day, travelers still came. A woman asked for the safest way to the sea. A merchant wanted a route that avoided the marshes. Victor helped them as he always did. But something was different. He listened longer before answering. He asked questions he hadn't asked before. What do you hope to find there? What kind of journey do you want? Are you in a hurry, or are you curious? Some people looked confused. Some laughed. but some quietly, unexpectedly relaxed, as if the questions reminded them they were not simply moving through space, but through life. And as Victor drew his lines, he noticed his hand was steadier. He wasn't forcing it. He wasn't carrying the weight of needing to know everything anymore. That night, when the town fell quiet, Victor closed his shop. He walked outside. The air was cool, the sky clear, and for the first time in years, he did not go straight home. He turned down a narrow street he'd never taken before. It wasn't far. It didn't lead to anywhere dramatic. It simply curved behind the market and opened into a small, overgrown garden he'd forgotten existed. The grass was tall, the flowers wild, the stone path cracked with time. Victor stood there, breathing in the scent of earth and green things. No map had ever pointed to this place. No traveler had ever asked for it, but it was here, waiting. Victor smiled softly to himself, and in the quiet, he felt it. Not a destination, not a plan, just the simple, steady joy of discovery. He turned his face toward the night sky, and as the wind finally arrived, gentle and cool, he let it brush across his cheek like a blessing. The end. As you settle toward sleep tonight, I hope you remember this. You don't have to have everything figured out to be on the right path. Some seasons are meant for planning, and others are meant for noticing, for listening to what feels true, for letting curiosity guide you one step at a time. If you've been waiting for certainty before you begin, consider this your permission to begin anyway. Not with pressure, not with perfection, but with a soft willingness to discover what comes next. And if you find yourself in a blank space, an in-between season, may you remember that emptiness isn't always absence. Sometimes it's simply room for something new to meet you. Thank you for sharing this story with me tonight. Good night. As this episode comes to a gentle close and the world outside grows quiet, may you find comfort within your own meditation nest. Let your mind settle softly. May tranquility wrap around you, inviting deep rest and serene dreams until dawn. If you'd like to help keep the meditation nest aglow, please consider buying me a cup of coffee by visiting ko-fi.com/BethPodcast. Every small kindness helps the light travel a little further. You can also access a free weekly blog on substack.com. Check the show notes for links. Until we meet again, rest in the quiet knowing that you are safely held by the night.